But anyway, then I still had all this revelation, and then I started reading Joe's books on his. My favorite one of his 3 that I read was "You Are the Placebo." You need to write it down. Okay, no, you can talk. I don't care. But "You Are the Placebo" is the best one to explain how our body has its capability of everything in it to heal itself. Because I don't know if you know about his testimony, if I ever talked about his testimony. I think I might have once with you, but he broke his back in 7 places in a triathlon, I think Ironman or triathlon thing, and healed it through meditation. When they wanted to put rods in his back, steel rods, said he'd never walk again. And he had a background, I think he'd already studied meditation and mysticism, Indian viewpoint from India, thing. But yeah, he learned how to meditate and focus on that and hitting what he called the sweet spot of meditation, of where he was visualizing and seeing that thing heal, and also seeing himself doing things he wouldn't be able to do if he was healed. He was using his imagination, seeing himself running and playing with his children and things like that. But anyway, so he healed his back, and in 10 weeks he was up walking again, working out even again. And they told him that he would never walk again. And then after that, he dedicated his life that he was going to teach that and study. He went to neuroscience. He went to college after that to get a neuroscience degree, so he could use that knowledge with it. And he's the one, I don't know if I told you, I saw in it was What the Bleep Do We Know is the name of the movie. I don't know if you ever heard of that. And
he's in The Secret too, then.
Yeah, well, he might have been in The Secret, yeah. But What the Bleep was 2004, and he tells his testimony about healing his back. But he didn't start doing his seminars and his workshops till, I don't know, 10 years ago, probably. After he got through that studying time and writing some books and stuff. But then in his workshops, like Karen and I, we've watched and learned a lot about from him in the last 3 years. He started, it was like a charismatic church service. He was teaching people the quantum physics, neuroscience, the knowledge and understanding first, because he was a firm believer that this will bring you the belief in it to do it, which is right, because faith comes by hearing, right? And that's what they were hearing, the neuroscience, and he had his own testimony to tell them. He was a living example, and then he was giving the science behind it. But when I heard him teaching, I'm going, oh my gosh, that's the same stuff I taught in my seminars. It was the same exact stuff. He was using the same examples of Roger Bannister 4-Minute Mile thing. He was using that. There were 2 or 3, the thing about the piano thing, I don't know if you remember that, where they visualized and played the piano in their minds, and they ended up developing the same neural circuits in their heads as the people that actually remember using. Well, he used that. I'm going, oh my gosh, he's using all the brain stuff. The only thing I didn't have that Joe had was meditation. And so that's why I got into it when I realized, and when I learned how, I started with his first meditation, which was from, I think it was the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself was his first book. And it might have been from that, or the You Are the Placebo. He had a meditation that went with him. But anyway, when I saw all the neuroscience, and what I was doing in the mornings was, I don't know if I told you this and taught you this about it, but I walked in my little living room there. I'd walk around and be speaking these things and feeling the emotion, because that's what, remember, you tag it with your emotion. And that's what he talks about too. But I was doing it walking around, not sitting and meditating. But he has what's called walking meditations too, which I thought, that's what I was freaking doing. I was doing the walking meditation. I was seeing them in my mind and feeling the emotion and walking around the room, and that's all biblical. Remember, you enter his courts with praise and his gates with thanksgiving. You're entering that holy of holies where you create from. See, that's where you create from. That's the source of everything. And that's what he was doing in his seminars. He'd have people after 4 or 5 days in his workshops getting out of wheelchairs. 4th stage cancer disappearing. And I thought, this is what prayer is. Prayer isn't sitting down and saying a bunch of words and then in the name of Jesus. That is not praying. This is real praying right here. This is what real, because you are going into the Holy of Holies. You're learning how to enter the Holy of Holies, which is, again, and this is where I'm going to get into some other stuff too about this, because this has just been, I told Karen this, I had a wonderful weekend last weekend. I got an opportunity to meet, I don't know if you know, you may not know him, Dr. Joseph Mercola.
Oh.
Do you know who he is?
I follow his site.
Do you really?
Okay,
I got to meet him. He was, Papa John had him at his house, and I got to spend a whole weekend with him. Yeah. I've got his book. I got it signed by him, the one about the COVID thing.
Oh, yeah.
And but anyway, the point is, I got to meet him, and then this other doctor, I can't remember his last name. He calls himself Dr. B, and he studied 20 years in China with the masters for 20 years on energy and meditation and different things. I got to meet him. He was there too. It was like, oh my gosh, it's like, and but John had just been at a conference, a week conference that was on anti-aging and what's another term? Age prevention, anti-aging, whatever. And all these guys that have gone doing breaking research, well, they were all there. And John invited them to go to the Derby. So they came and spent the weekend and went to Derby, and then I got to come and work out with John and meet them. And but anyway, what was amazing, now this was what, see, this has been happening for a year now with all this stuff. Dr. B, I'll get his name for you. You might know him too, because I got an email from him where you can go do his website too. But we got to talking and sharing because we had an opportunity. And so I started sharing my Bible stuff, like revelation about what the Bible really is and what's really going on. And he goes, "You're quoting this book." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Didn't you just say that everything's metaphor?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're quoting this book called The Disappearance of the Universe." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Oh." He said, "Everything you've said in the last 10 minutes, you've quoted this book." And I thought, and one of the things this book says, I got it and read it since then. I've read the whole thing since then. But one of things this book says is, God is and everything else is metaphor.
Wow.
Everything else.
So you agree with everything that you read? Awesome.
And but he also, the thing about ego that I've been learning over the last year, that everything in the Bible about the fall of Adam, and this thing talks about non-duality that I've been studying a lot about through different people on YouTube. Donald Hoffman, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's an amazing neuroscientist. That he's actually proven mathematically that 3D reality and time are actually an illusion.
Say that again.
3D reality and time are an illusion.
Okay.
That it's actually a virtual reality.
Okay. I would agree with that if you think about it.
But I don't have a problem with that at all.
Either.
But at the same time, it made sense to me that let's just think about the overall big picture. Before anything that we know of as physical reality existed, in the beginning, like the Bible says, was God, okay? Or just divine awareness, consciousness, that's it. Which means one. Nothing else but oneness. Nothing else. Are you with me? Like total, complete, divine, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotence being. That's it. Then Adam and Eve took from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and it hit me. I thought, oh my gosh, duality. Good, evil. See, what's duality but opposites?
Mm-hmm.
That's what all duality is. It's you compare one thing to another, see? Or you define one thing as this, then you define its opposite, because light and darkness don't exist without the other. How can you define one? You can't define cold without hot, or hot without cold. But before they ate from that, they were in oneness awareness. All they knew was oneness. That's it. See? So the fall, it hit me again. The fall, and it was not fall physically. It was a fall of falling. It was a falling of consciousness, awareness. Happened in the illusionary thinking, creating of duality, or creating and defining something. Judging. Don't you have to judge when you're talking about good and evil?
Yes. That's powerful.
And God doesn't judge. See, but now think about this. If there's oneness, how could you judge? There's no opposites. There's no judgment.
That's awesome.
Absolutely no judgment. And there was no ego. Adam and Eve had no ego until they ate from the tree. Because when did they realize they were naked? See? When did they identify with the body? And that's when the ego was born, the false self. And that's the real idol that separates from God. Because you think that's you and it's not. And then once you divide and separate, this creates all of the separation problems. Comparison. Who makes more money? Male and female. Remember, do you know in Genesis it says male and female, he created him. There wasn't separateness. And then, she's heard me say this tons of times over the last year, this is the fall, this is what causes hell on earth. And if you believe in separateness and in your ego, you are in hell. See? Because now think about this. Doesn't religion teach us that we're separate from God? Mm-hmm. And so we got to repent or whatever, to become one again. But this book, The Disappearance of the Universe, says it's all an illusion. You have never, ever not been one with God. It's an illusion. It's a created concept that puts you there that's not real. The only real reality is oneness. There is no separation. Even in awareness of this experience, that's the whole point of where you want to get. You want to become aware. You can still have this experience of the illusion, but know that it's not real. Then you can still have the experience of the created experience of it, but not judge it. See, but not judge it as bad or good. Just have the experience. That's all it's for. See, and from the notion of oneness, it's all you anyway. Every thing you're seeing, and of course, this is to me, this was the whole thing that Jesus taught his whole ministry. And we didn't get it. And this book talks about that they don't call him Jesus. They say his real name was Yeshua. And they call him Jay in this book. And they talk about how he was aware that there was no separation, and he was communicating that in his expression. But they say you are as much Jesus as he was. I am. She is. Everyone is. They just have fallen from that awareness of it. He came, remember he said, you can do the same things I've done and even greater. He was trying to get them to see, don't worship me. It's the Father in me. This is an ego. This is an illusionary body like yours. When they said, when they ask who I am, he says, well, before Abraham, what? I am. That's, all of us are the I. See, that's what we don't realize is the divine is the I am. That's what God told Moses when he said, what should I tell people? He said, tell them I am. Because there is no name for one. There's no name. You only name separateness. You only name things in separation. That's what divides. That's why we've made a mistake ever since Newton and Descartes started the reductionist science of separating into smaller things to try to find out what reality is. And that it had the opposite effect. It created all of our problems because we created the idea of separateness to try to search for truth. And there's only one, separateness doesn't exist, or truth doesn't exist in separateness. It exists in oneness. That's the only truth there is in oneness. That's the only real truth. So anyway, then I got to thinking about that, and we can get back to the ego thing. Then I realized, well, that was what Jesus went into the desert 40 days. It wasn't, Satan isn't a being. Do you know what the Greek word for Satan really means? You know what?
I think it's a female
No,
as well.
it's just
Hebrew.
adversary.
No, I didn't know that.
It means adversary. And it's not capitalized. We capitalized it and personalized it. And what is all our adversaries? The ego, the created self-identity that Adam and Eve ended up, because they're naked now, this is me. I identify with the body. Well, that was the temptation that Jesus went through. Remember what was going through his mind that he could have if he. Yeah, but that's earthly. Yeah, the ego wants what? Earthly power and riches. That would sustain the ego. That would give the ego life. See, that's the reason why the ego is afraid to die, is because it knows it can't cease to exist. God can't cease to exist. The real I am in you will never cease to exist, but the ego isn't real, so guess what it can do? Cease to exist. No wonder it fights to stay alive. That's why everyone fights to, I'm black, I'm female, I'm this. And they're creating their own hell because that isn't them. That's something that passes away, comes and goes. Remember, Paul said, don't set your eyes on things of the earth, for they are what? Temporary. But set your eyes on things above that are eternal. And he was talking about the separateness. The same book he's writing about the body being one. Oneness. That whole book of Corinthians was about one body. Some say I'm of Cephas, some say I'm of Paul, some say I'm of Christ. How can I give you meat when you're devouring, backbiting one another? Well, that only happens because we're separate identities. We would backbite. We're gonna be competitive. Somebody's gonna look better than somebody else. Somebody's gonna want more than, or wants what somebody else has. You can't have that in oneness. You got everything. Why would you? So you wouldn't even go there.
That's cool.
And he was teaching that oneness concept in the book of Corinthians. See, remember he said, we know in part, we prophesy in part, separateness. But when completeness comes, he even says it there. The word maturity there means wholeness in the Greek. All these will pass away. So you don't need gifts. Why do you need the frickin' gifts to get a healing from another part if you're whole? It was like all of that he was talking about. And then he said, but all of these abide, but the greatest of them is what? Because love, God is love. And that love that we're talking about is oneness, not separation. That conquers all. Love that conquers all. See? And I'm thinking, this is in all of this stuff. See, it's all there. And in the Bible, just like they're talking about. And in this book, Disappearance of the Universe, the whole point of all of it is for you to enter what you would call the kingdom, or you could call it, like they call it, ascension, is realizing, and now they say this in there too, because Jesus said, remember he said, if you do this to the least of these, you've done it to me. He said, if you give someone a cup of water to drink, you've done it. He's trying to say, hey, you're all freaking me. There's only one. Whatever you do to someone else, you're doing to yourself. Period. And we didn't get it. Nobody got it. And that's why he told them, it hit me in one of my revelations from these journeys, it hit me, oh my gosh, that's why he said, it's better that I go away. He didn't want them focusing on his ego. See, they would focus on what he was doing, who he was. He says, it's better that I go away so the Comforter can come. And guess where from? From within, who's already there. Then you'll see it's here. It's already in you. But I need to go for that to happen. So you won't focus on separateness and look at me. That hit me. Oh my gosh, that's why he said it's better. So anyway, the whole meditation thing, this is what happens every morning, and can happen, is you're leaving the separateness and going to the oneness. You're taking your awareness, consciousness, off of division and the illusion, and going into the Holy of Holies and becoming back into awareness of oneness. See? And that's the whole point of it. Then you're everything. Then you from there, you're everyone. You're not part of anything, you are everything. And what I do when I'm in that state, I purposely send out love and compassion to every aspect of creation, just because I know it's all me. I know that it's all. See, this is all a reflective mirror of your consciousness. See? That's why Jesus, even Paul said, oh my gosh, he said, with unveiled face, beholding as in a what? Mirror. See the glory of God. This is the mirror. And when you realize you remove your face, your ego, you see you are the glory of God. You are God. And remember he said you turn from the law to the Spirit with unveiled. That's because what's the law? The law is the separateness part. Everything is divided into pieces, and we got to control it with laws. See, we got to control it with laws. That's the outward way of trying to control. And even Paul said, the law makes sin even more sinful. Right? Remember that? Well, that's because it makes separation more separation. And you know what the real definition of sin is? Now this,
Archery.
missing the mark, yes, but you know where this is when I had this revelation years ago. There's, oh my gosh, I wish everybody, Christians, could see this. And I found this because I studied the word glory from Genesis to Revelation, just as its context. But when it really hit me was in John 17. Jesus was praying his prayer there. He says, Father, I pray that they be one. Uh-oh, what have we been talking about? As we are one. Them in us, and thus in them. But you know what he said right before that? Give them the glory that you've given me. Oh my God, he just defined the glory as the oneness. So when you're falling short of the glory, the real sin, remember Paul says all have sinned and fallen short of the what? Glory, oneness. He's saying you think you're separate. And that's what causes all the things we call sin. That's why you would be envious of someone, because you're separate from someone. You're somebody, they're somebody. That causes envy. That causes strife. That causes jealousy. Separateness is the sin, not those. That causes all sin. The ego. The definition of separateness has caused all problems. Why do you think we have this group right now in the United States fighting this group and this group? Everybody's defining their group, and then they got to fight to defend that group from another group, and they're falling short of the glory. They're falling short of the one that you're not a black person. You're an eternal God. You're not even female. Nobody's female or male. All that is made up concepts. Do you think nature needs to know whether it's male or female to work? We did all that. We've done all that. We've created all of that. The separateness again. See, we're going from oneness to separateness, and what did we spend like in our science doing? Separating, defining. Separating, defining. And so you fall short of the glory. You've sinned in the sense that you've missed the mark. And it's the glory of God that he talks about, like with unveiled face, and it says it will transform you from glory to glory. In other words, you just become more revelation of the oneness, just the oneness. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, this whole thing, and that's what this book says. This is a freaking illusion. Separation is, and you've never stopped being one or in oneness, because it's an illusion. It looks as if. We've created the as if it is, but it isn't. But if you believe in this, you suffer the consequences of that, because your faith is See, you're a God. You're God. You're creating. It's like a bird out there never stops being a bird. It's always being a bird. Well, you're freaking God. There in the moment you're not being God. Even when you don't know you are, and even when you think you're not, you're still being God. Separation is an illusion. So so that's where I go. I'm going back to the glory when I go in that's what the meditation is to do. That's the whole purpose for me, anyway. I don't know about anybody else that meditates. I think a lot of them would probably agree that that's the point, is losing this and going back to who you really are. Now, one way I do this to explain it too, and Karen's heard me say this probably more than once, but I did this with a group of people at John's house one time, and they went, but if we did, let's say everybody, we're in a group, let's say everybody immediately had a total amnesia. We wipe everything out of your knowledge and memory in your brain, everything, every definition, every concept. You're totally blank, all right? But what would you still know? I am. And everyone is I am. There wouldn't be anyone that wasn't. And all of the definitions, all the concepts, all the ego constructs, you can see they're all made up. Because they can be forgotten. They can be wiped out of you. But not the I am. And that right there told me that's proof that we are all I am. We're just infinite illusionary projections of those separations that aren't really real. And, okay, let's go to this part. This book says it a little bit differently, but because this is a question mark I have about it still. What is the point of all this then? Wonder why. Because from my perspective, the divine, God, Creator, knows what it's doing. And there isn't a moment it doesn't know. There isn't a time, because time doesn't exist. It's a created thing. And so here's my perspective on all of it. I know there's some people say that the universe is just God playing hide and seek with himself. I've heard that saying too. Because if you think about it, everybody that's born into this existence, it's like you're coming in, you're a divine awareness coming in, and you have total amnesia of who you are. You don't know you're divine. And I think that's on purpose. Now, this is just my thinking about the whole. When you think about why did God allow all of this to happen in the first place? And then it hit me. And I'll tell you who's really helped me with a lot of this is one of our favorite people to listen to. His name's, you might want to write this down, is Neville Goddard. Neville. Goddard, Goodard. That's not right?
Godd.
Is it
Isn't
DD?
it ARD?
Maybe, yeah.
That's right.
I think Travis.
Yeah, it's probably two Ds. But anyway, he just had some amazing revelation and understanding, and all this stuff that I've talked about, losing your memory of everything. He doesn't say it in those terms like having amnesia, but there's one of his teachings. I can't remember if I know my Father, and what was the other one? You remember that other one we used to listen to a lot? I can't remember the name of it. I know my Father is the one you want to listen to. Will be one of them. I know my Father. I'll find the other one and let you know what it is. But he goes in to the whole I am thing and explains what I just talked about too. That's who you really are. And he says that imagination is God. That's your God ability. That's all he talks about. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, yes, this is consciousness's imagination. See, this is a created image. That's why it's an illusion.
I hear in the Christ letters that that's not true. That imagination is not God. He explains it better.
See, I read that there too, but I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I'm not saying it's God, I'm saying it's what God uses. Imagination is our creation tool.
Well,
And
Neville says your imagination is God.
Right, but I think I think it's mincing words. I think he's saying this is your creation tool. But anyway, The other thing this book talks about is that this is like a dream. And I've even heard Deepak Chopra say that this is a dream, and eventually maybe, you'll wake up in the dream and realize it. But when you go to bed at night and have a dream, it's your consciousness creating all those different individuals in there. None of them are real. But it's in your consciousness that you create the dream. And when you're having that dream, it's real.
Yeah, Neville says imagination creates reality.
Yeah.
One of the others we listened to is Feeling is the Secret.
Yes. That's not the one I was thinking of. But,
No.
but my point was going to be that if you were laying next to someone and they were having a nightmare, and having this dream of maybe somebody chasing them to kill them, or, trying to kill them, or, these nightmares. Well, they're having a real experience in their consciousness. But in reality, didn't their single consciousness create everything in it? Every person that they see, they created them. And when you wake up, it's like, thank God that wasn't real. That was, But it was really created in a single consciousness. And then when you wake up, it really has no consequence because it wasn't really real anyway. And that's what this book says is exactly what's happening here too. All of this is created in the mind of God. All of this is created in the consciousness. And think about it. Remember how you could create with your imagination the people, the piano thing. They created neural circuits in their head with their imagination. See? They made it
their
real.
own imagination that thing's impossible.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
So what this tells me, and they talk about this too then, and it makes a lot of sense. And especially when everything is, if you go back to the oneness thing. If we're doing that same thing here, then that's my consciousness is creating you. See? And same here. This version of me is the same, and it's not a different consciousness, it's the same one. See, there isn't a different consciousness. It's the other thing this book said that I came to the conclusion of, if logically everything is one, there aren't separate souls. No. It's like when I think we got this from religion, that when God created us, and if we're children of God, we put the same conditions that happen in a physical mother having a baby, and it's separate. We apply that visual concept, to God having children, so that I'm separate from God. Even though God had me as a child, I'm a separate soul. But see, you're applying physical reality. No.
Could it be that the soul, when we were going through this, to me, the soul would be your ego. So I could see souls being, because it's your mind, will, and emotion, your soul.
Yes, that's mind, will, and emotion.
But your spirit
That's ego.
is a God, right. So that could be looked at as individuality, right? So a soul could be the ego of that person. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that's the way I see it.
Yeah,
but
and
in
your
reality,
spirit is God,
but again, in
part of
reality,
God.
right? But in reality, though, that's still all made up. See,
I see.
that's a made-up construct.
I see.
And from my perspective, right now, it could change. I just see what we experience in in what we call the universe, or this dimension, whatever you want to call it, is just the divine creator creating experiences.
Wow.
To have experiences. Now think about it. I've heard these other guys like Rupert Spira, remember him? Him and this other Swami I may share this with you so you can take it, watch it sometime. But when they discuss it too, they discuss it as the same thing as, watching a movie. Think about it. When you sit and watch a movie, if you get caught up in it emotionally, it becomes real to you. You're having the real emotional reactions to what's going on in the movie, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of movies, is to create that experience for you. That's when movies are good, is when they can create something that becomes real to you. But no matter what kind of movie it is, whether it's a tragedy or an amazing, blissful experience or whatever, when the movie's over, you go, oh, it's just a movie.
But
It was
sometimes you get so caught up in it after the movie, you just keep
Yeah,
going
that's
with all
right.
those emotions.
And that's the point, to have that experience. The only difference is you're in this movie. You're starring in it, in every one of the stars, actually. Just like in your dream. And think about what have human beings done? What have we created on purpose because we want to create experiences? Virtual reality. I wonder why we have that desire. Because we're creators trying to create experiences. And there's one scientist, his name's Donald Hoffman. You should Google him on YouTube. He explains all this. He says that we are in a virtual reality, and this is our headset. See, the physical brain body is our virtual suit. And he says the problem with what science is doing they're trying to figure things out within the virtual reality. See, everything science does is in this reality and trying to search for truth. But they're in a virtual made-up reality. You're not going to find the real truth in the virtual. You're not going to get back to source. You can't get back there, see. And again, that's why meditation, you're going from the virtual reality to source.
Wow.
You're stepping out of your
Avatar.
yes, and your virtual
That's something.
reality suit. You're
Makes sense.
stepping back out of it. And think about this. Now this is what I'm believing is possible. Now I'm going to go back into and reprogram and create my virtual reality on purpose.
I like that.
See,
I like that.
you're going to see that you got to go back though, outside of the headset. You can't be in the headset and do that.
Wow.
And see, that's what all of our senses are for. Our senses interpret our reality. Do you know that we only see less than 1%
Yeah.
of all the different spectrums of the sounds, light, hearing, less than 1% of
You
that.
taught me that. He's taught me so much over the years.
Oh, me too.
I know, it's amazing. Yeah.
So, again, that goes back to Paul. We see in part. Because it's only taking parts, right? But the purpose of that is to create a reality experience with those parts.
I think that other Neville Goddard thing that you want to remember is at your command.
Yes, at your command.
What's that? Is that a book?
No, it's a YouTube video. At your command. There's tons of Neville
Once
Goddard
you find
YouTubes.
him on YouTube, there'll be all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff on there.
but those two I think are one of the main.
I know my father and At Your Command.
Yes.
Those two.
And he had a relationship with an Indian from India, Neville Goddard did, that opened his mind up. He was a basic traditional Christian like me growing up. And then he had this amazing experience where all this started opening up to him. And he was even traveling. He was even projecting
travel.
himself to other places.
Astral projection.
Yes.
I've done that by accident.
Yeah.
Totally done that by accident. Yeah,
But I
used to
mean,
do it
but
all
he
the time,
didn't just,
know what I was doing.
but he actually appeared to people. They saw him.
I would do it just out of curiosity. I was able to project myself at red lights. I would think, what would it be like to be that? And
Oh,
I
and
would
the other
see
person.
through there. It was the weirdest thing. I didn't know what I was doing. Had no idea. This
But-
was when
but
I was
this-
19, 20 years old.
But see, this makes sense
It's
then.
true. People can do that.
But we all can,
Yeah,
because
everybody
it's
can.
all our
Yeah.
same consciousness in a different perspective. All we got to do is change perception.
Well, the military's using that
Yes.
technology. You've heard that,
Yes.
right? Astral projection.
Back from the 70s,
Yeah,
I think they
exactly.
did it. Can't think of the guy's name. But anyway, yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm thinking, okay, and that's what he talks about. He says, and he's a scientist, and he talks about, he said, unless we get back, outside the headset, we're not going to find the true source of reality or really understand source. But they all agree, all of these people, that it's consciousness. It's aware. Like I said earlier, the I am. And so all of that is to say, that's my belief, is that's how you get out of the headset, is meditation. You're going in to just pure awareness. Dr. Joe says you become no thing, no one, nobody, nowhere. Then you become everyone, everybody, everything, everywhere, because you're omnipresent.
And you've done that? You've experienced that?
Well, I've experienced the no awareness, yes. I can get there. And
How do you get to the other phase?
which phase is
The
it?
omnipresent.
Oh, that's the same thing. The moment you are in just awareness with nothing in it, no thoughts, just blank, you're immediately omnipresent. You're immediately everything. That's the I am. See, the I am is omnipresent.
Right.
Remember the I am
Right, that's
with
true.
the I am with total amnesia. That's where you're going. That's your goal, is to hit that sweet spot of no thing, no one, no ego, see, nobody. And see, what I also do is I start quoting these scriptures that I have in me, that I have the mind of Christ. Remember that says,
Oh, I
what's
do.
it? Right? It's in there too. See there? I've got the mind of God. That's talking about everything, And I become aware that I don't try to have specific thoughts, just that I am the mind of God. And I get there in that, and but then you can, on purpose, once you get there, use your imagination.
You can? See,
And
this
create.
is so new to me. I don't understand a lot of this.
Well, but
Never
from
studied. This is
it's
amazing.
it's from there
Yeah.
that you create. In fact, that's what you're doing all the time. Aren't you always being aware of something? So that's what you're creating. In fact, that's what Deepak Chopra and this other Swami says, that you're giving everything reality with your consciousness
How often do you meditate? You do it every day, don't you?
every morning.
What about you, Karen? You do it too every
Every
day?
day.
Wow.
She started back when we started, 3 years ago? About 3 years, 3.5 years. We started a group up again, and they wanted, a couple of friends of ours that wanted me to start teaching again, and so it was right at that time that I was reading Dr. Joe's books about his meditation stuff. And so we started talking about all this stuff. And then we've learned too, Dr. Stephen Greer, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's had close encounters with extraterrestrials, and he's a doctor, scientist, and he's right now creating a group of worldwide people get them to meditate together. A unified meditation to get in contact with extraterrestrials. And they're having them appear in their groups.
Seriously?
Yes. They've got pictures and videos of these light beings appearing in their groups. And extraterrestrials doesn't necessarily mean from this dimension.
Right.
It could be other dimensional, interdimensional extraterrestrials too. So that's the other thing that we've narrowed our minds down to one.
I agree.
One universe
I agree.
experience.
It's not.
And there's infinite.
Oh, I agree.
We've talked about this too. I told Karen, I said, we think this male-female thing and all this stuff that goes on here is everything. I'm sure there are universes that we wouldn't even believe could exist.
I agree.
That are totally opposite of it's totally different from all of this.
I agree.
Because in the infinite mind of God, you think this is it? Really?
They're dimensions, and
Right.
and Dr. Greer is calling his the fifth dimension.
No, he calls it encounter of the fifth kind.
Close encounter.
Close encounter of the fifth kind.
Yeah.
But he was also talking about how if we get a certain percentage of the population of the earth in a unified meditation, it's the tipping point to make things happen. See, they've already done this, and they've done studies on this where they had 2,000 people out of, I think, a population of, I don't know, was it 20,000? I know, 200,000 or something, where they said, I think it was 1%. Well, if you had 100,000, 1% of that would be 1,000. So 200,000 would be 2,000. That they've actually done studies where they've had 2,000 people do the meditation together, and they literally caused crime rates to drop. They caused all these immediate changes in society.
Well,
And
that makes so much sense.
Well, and I know you've heard me talk about the 100th monkey effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. See?
Yeah.
It's our species, once it's passed on to and that number's arbitrary, just at a certain point, 100th is kind of but I was telling her the revelation I had, oh my gosh, and I told you this already, I think the last time we talked, that's the 144,000.
Right.
That's in the book of Revelation, because it's the same dimensions of the city, 144. And I'm thinking, and he says, build the city, or you are a city set on a hill, the nations will come to your light. So you get enough number of people, that's the concept, see, the meditation thing.
Tell her about the storm with Dr.
I don't remember exactly how that
You
happened.
remember Deepak?
I remember that happening.
This
Go ahead.
was
You can
years
tell.
ago.
20 years ago,
Deepak
probably.
Chopra was in Louisville, and we were all together as a group and decided to go see him when he came. And so we did, and before the end of his talk, he asked us all to imagine a great thunderstorm. And so, I mean, we were at the Brown Theater, I believe, and it was full to capacity. And so here were all these people imagining this great thunderstorm, and it wasn't even supposed to rain that night. And when we left, there was a fierce thunderstorm, pouring down rain. I mean, nobody was prepared. Nobody had umbrellas or anything. So we actually created this thunderstorm.
Oh my gosh. Well, all of this makes so much sense, because you look at the Indians with the rain. I mean, you look at, they knew so much that we've dismissed as evil or whatever, or missing.
Anything that doesn't fit our religious
Right.
structure.
My mom has always said about the dimensions and the oneness. My mom, who doesn't have a high school education, that's it. She's got a high school education. She's always said we're nothing but a bunch of cells. She's always taught that there are so many dimensions that what we see isn't real. You know, she can touch a tree and feel the vibrations, and she feels she's part of that tree. She's always taught us that with nature and with everything around. She knew, I think innately, she knew
Right.
what you're this oneness, she knew that. She would be all over this because this makes sense to her. This is what she's felt as a child. It's interesting. So she's kind of taught us to that. And then when I met Travis, he started teaching me about the spirit, soul, body. I'd never heard that. And you taught that to me the whole time we were at Southeast doing the Make for the Pageant. And then from there, the brain seminar. I mean, it all fits. And this journey you've been on now to watch where you are, what you believed then, and to see how you've found the fullness of it, and you're articulating it exactly what you felt, but you didn't know how to get there. You didn't know why, but you knew
Right.
it was there. Now you know why, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And this is the second coming of Jesus. This is the second coming of Christ, is the revelation of the Christ in everyone. Because think about we will see, now listen to this right here, and the fact that Christ is in both of us, and when he's revealed, we'll see, he says, we'll see him face to face.
Oh, ooh, that gave me chills. Oh,
See, everybody thought they meant
Yeah.
Jesus physically, and I'm thinking, I just think, now wait a minute, how can everybody see him face to face? Seriously, how can everybody see his face on his
You're right.
body in the whole world face to face? And I wasn't thinking back then of this,
Yeah.
but I just thought, are they going to put him on satellite, or, you know?
I know.
And then when I saw this, and when the Paul's thing about with unveiled face beholding is in a mirror, the glory, and Paul kept saying, do you not know Christ is in you? I mean, how many times does it say that in there? Do you not know? And I thought, the second coming, the unveiling of the body of Christ, that's the second coming, is when we see Christ, the Christ in everyone. But see, that can happen to you before it happens to everybody. You can have that revelation. See, that's what I'm having in my experience right now, that it's true, that the Christ is in everyone. And I believe that's also how you bring it about in everyone. Because remember, everyone you're seeing is you.
Well, that's true.
So if you are starting to see it, you're helping everyone, part of you, to see it. See. And the 100th monkey effect again, back to a certain number. And you know what we got to remove? Everybody's got to quit calling themselves a transgender, quit calling themselves black, quit calling themselves anything. See, and then it hit me, the physical body is really dirt, isn't it? Well, see, this is the grave that Christ is buried in. See?
Now that's a good one. That's good.
I just got a hole burning in the top of my head, and so I always get these surges of energy
They're
when I say things like, and it hit me, oh my God, yes, he was buried in the flesh, in the dirt, to be resurrected. Do you think I'm crazy?
No, I wouldn't be sitting here. I've known you a long time. It's interesting to see how you're pulling things that you used to, like I said, you didn't know back then, but you knew in your spirit, you knew something, but you didn't know how it fit. And he would say that. That's what I appreciate so much about Travis. He's not one to say, well, this is it and that's it. You'll say it may evolve. I may evolve, I may change my mind. To me, that's the humility, and that's wisdom at the same time. You're being open to learn. So many people, once they're set in a way, they've written a book, that's it, it's going to be this.
And they stay there.
And that's what I mean. And you
People
can evolve.
and people do that when they follow somebody.
Right. That's right.
That all they follow is that one person's knowledge. We
Right.
talked about that before.
Right.
Like people will just follow Dr. Joe, or people will just follow
Exactly.
Deepak, or
No.
And what am I doing? I'm listening to all of them
Absolutely.
because they're all me.
That's right.
And I have to tell you that after listening to Travis for all these years and all this stuff sinking in, all these people like these books that he's telling you about, everything that I have read and listened to, it's all the same things that Travis is saying. I mean, he instinctively knows this stuff. And it's out there in books and recordings and everything. So, if you listen to this and you listen to him, you hear the same thing. So, you know, it's a well-rounded, wide view of everything. And I was never a Bible person. Travis has brought that alive to me. I mean, when I was a kid, I heard stuff, but I was not really indoctrinated into it.
Were you Catholic?
No,
Oh, okay.
not when I was a kid.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's right. You married.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there's another thing that Travis found and shared with me that I think you might like too, is called the Christ Letters, and they're in two different parts on YouTube, and the first part is 1 through 4, and the second is 5 through 9, and I listen to some part of that almost every day, over and over and over.
Is that this Neville?
No, it's
No.
different. It's different.
No.
Remember that other one we used to listen to that was called Yeshua? I just saw a couple of those come up again on YouTube. I forgot I had listened to those. It was someone who was channeling the Christ, and the guy
Yes.
that reads Neville's
Yes,
stuff was
yes.
doing those.
Yes, yes,
It's very similar to
yes.
See, this is the thing that's happening also right now. Just like this guy that wrote the book Disappearance of the Universe. And in that book, I've never done this, but I think I'm going to get it and read it just because of this book. The Course in
I'm
Miracles.
gonna bring it to you.
Okay.
I meant to bring it today.
You already have it?
Oh yeah, I've had it for 40
Don't you
years.
want it though? Don't you mean?
Since we talked about it, I got it out and started to read it again, and
Couldn't get into it?
I thought this book was not written for me.
Oh.
You know how
Right, you can
how
tell.
things.
Well, and I'm not saying it
speak
is
to
for
you.
me necessarily either.
But I
I'm-
think as a teacher, I had a friend who was a teacher who gave it to me, and I think it might speak to you better than it does to me. It's just not written in a way that I can
Right.
comprehend it and hold on to what I'm reading.
It's called, you may have heard of A Course in Miracles. Have you ever heard that?
That the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this book I just read called The Disappearance of the Universe. This guy was a meditator. And one time he opened his eyes up after meditation, and these two beings were sitting on the couch.
these two what?
Beings.
Beads.
And one was male and one was female. And at first he obviously thought I'm hallucinating, and then they started talking and he calmed down. But anyway, they turned out to be Thomas, his disciple Thomas, and Thaddeus. But they were in different male, one was a male, one was a female. They were in different, they didn't appear as they did back then. And they actually explained that that they had reached ascension. And that's when you can do what Jesus did, like appear and disappear afterwards. He could, and he still does that according to them. Like he'll still appear to people, and but anyway, that book, they refer to A Course in Miracles as being something that Jesus did inspire this woman to write, that wrote it. Like in fact, they say it's the lesson book that everyone needs to really learn from to accomplish their total, what you would call ascension or awareness. See, and this is the other thing, and I'm doing it all the time, now that I'm aware of that too. See, like right now, again, if you read this and agree with that experience that the guy had, see, I am Yeshua, appearing to you. I've been teaching you for the last
Most definitely, you are.
and you. Not because I think I am. I don't know if this makes any sense at all. Does it make, like, but also for you to learn. But see, you also have other people, like someone that may cuss you out tomorrow. And that's also from your subconscious mind. That's still you. And it's a part of yourself that they say you're not aware of. A programmed part of you that needs healing and is really coming to you for forgiveness. See,
That came from this book?
the disappearance of the universe. That's where that came from. But they also teach that, they say they get all their stuff is also, I think, supposed to be in the Course of Miracles also. That. And that every aspect of yourself, everybody you're running into all the time is a aspect of your consciousness. It's a you. It's part of you that wants healing and love. And it comes, and they come in both forms, like good and the other stuff that where you've been injured or harmed, or and you're still angry and you don't know it, or and you're experiencing that so you can forgive. And then remember, like I said earlier, Jesus said, as you forgive, you are forgiven. So it's actually a positive thing that everyone you're running into, and that's how you get your ascension. Forgiving everyone and giving them love, no matter what. And that heals you.
It actually makes it easier if you understand that that's a reflection of part of you that you need to. That would not anger me that person just
but if
flipped me off.
And we're back to the thing we've been talking about, that everyone is you.
Right.
Everything is one.
That makes it easier to understand. It makes it easier to forgive and love if you understand that concept.
And so
but if you don't, you just
their favorite example story at the beginning of the book of Disappearance of the Universe, they say, that describes it perfectly, is the story in the Bible of the prodigal son. All of them are the prodigal coming home.
Wow. Makes sense.
And in doing that, you set them free, that part of you free. So you're releasing. And their foundation to make it easy to do is the fact that they say, remember, everything that's happening in this three-dimensional reality is an illusion. And it's an illusion created by the illusionary ego, which doesn't really exist anyway. So that should be easy to forgive. There really is no responsibility in any of it. See? It's all made up and created out of separateness. So there's nothing to condemn, only just to love and accept that. Just like you watching a movie. Again, it's only being acted out. It's not a reality.
Are you going to talk to her about programming, Dr. Joe's ideas of programming?
Like, for example,
Perception.
I'm not sure where you're headed.
Well,
Maybe you can do
we're
it.
all sitting here, and she and I are hearing the same thing, we're seeing the same thing, but everything is subject to my perception,
Yes.
to your perception, and they're never ever the
Oh.
same. They can't be the same.
Yeah. In other words, my perception of this reality, Karen's and yours and everybody's, is unique. There's no way we see reality exactly the same. And then it hit me that, so wow, you put all of those together, you got the whole thing. If you put everyone's perception together, you got the whole.
That's why we're all at 2% or 1%,
Right,
right?
right. And see, none of us, from the day we came in as a baby and started getting programmed, none of us have the exact same programming. Even if we were in the same family, we still had different perceptions and different things that happen in our lives that, you know, we see through the brain. You know, we see through, you know that already, we see through our neural circuits. And we're constantly judging by that. That's the other thing that this says here that I really love this. I want to read a little bit of this to you while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, this was after I listened to Deepak, some of Deepak's stuff, but he said, in order to understand reality and to be free from it is to observe it without judgment. In fact, that's what he says is the highest form of intelligence or awareness, is observing without judgment.
How do you get there? I don't
That just
understand.
means you're not going to, you're neutral. That's when you're seeing clearly. Now, and I'll explain this to you biblically. This is what Jesus meant when he said, how can you take the log or twig out of your brother's eye without the log in yours? Till you take the log out, that's judgment. See, because right after that he says, judge not. The log is the judging. You remove your judgment, it automatically removes the one from. There is no judgment.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is, how do you stop that part of your brain? Is that through meditation?
Yes, and
that's what I'm, okay,
well,
so how do you
and
get there?
just the first step is is right now knowing it and being aware of it.
Being aware.
And just stopping it. When you feel
Yeah,
it, just stop it.
All you do
Okay.
is just and
Okay.
realize that's what's called. We teach in the seminar. It's called metacognition. Your frontal lobes, you're observing. See, instead of getting caught up reacting to that with your judgment.
Can
Even though
read
you
that?
may feel it, you catch yourself and turn it into just an observation. This is, without judgment. What were you going to say?
Could you read that to me one more time?
In order to understand reality or be free from it is to observe without judgment. Yeah, this is metacognition. You get into the habit of being present to every experience. See, people, we heard this from Joe, spend 95% of their day in the automatic pilot, which means that's where all your judgments are coming from. So when something happens while you're in the automatic pilot, you don't think and respond, you react. See, everybody's spending 95% of their day reacting. That's judgment. The reaction is you judge. You wouldn't react if you didn't judge. That tells you that's those programmed judgments that are already in your brain. See, but if you're in the frontal lobes, and as an observer, you're just observing. Oh, I know what that is. You're just watching the movie. Right? That's what that is. If you're observing, you're watching the movie, realizing it's just a movie. You're not going to judge the killer in a movie. I mean, you are in a way not going to like it because it's, getting into the movie, but you know that person's really not a killer. It's just made up. In fact, every scenario we run into every day is set up for us to learn these lessons. To learn how to do what we're talking about here and to be aware. The biggest thing is being aware. If there's anything you focus on, it's just being aware. And I love this too. They go about the being part. It says the body doesn't really breathe. It's being breathed. The brain isn't really thinking. It's being thought through. The heart isn't really beating, it's being beaten. The body isn't living, it's being lived through. So your consciousness, your being, your I am, is breathing through. See?
Wow.
The eyes are not seeing, they are being seen through. Which is even, we know that from the study of the body, that the eyes, you don't really see with the eyes. The body isn't feeling, but being felt through. So see, again, this is our reality suit. That's what that's really describing. This is our virtual reality suit. The tongue isn't tasting, it's being tasted through. You are the being. And then one of the things they say, I love this, language is the knife with which you cut out reality.
Wow.
Think about it. Isn't that what we said earlier? We define with words. Well, you're cutting pieces out of reality
Right.
and creating that. Think about, how does it say God created? In the beginning was the Word. So that's the knife you cut up reality with into pieces.
Well, it's living and active, sharper than any double-edged sword.
That's right.
I mean, it's-
Sharper than a
it's-
two-edged
yeah,
sword.
Yeah. Soul and marrow, or
Joints and marrow.
spirit, soul,
Soul.
and bones and marrow. Yeah.
Yep.
That's sharp. It's amazing. You start seeing all of this. It's all
Isn't it
scriptural.
amazing? Yes,
It's all
it's
scriptural.
all out of your heart. It said, protect your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life, the river.
And you speak curses on yourself, blessings or curses. With
Not
the
what
tongue.
goes in a man that defiles him, it's
Yeah.
what goes out.
Yeah.
You eat the fruit of your mouth.
I mean, it's so.
Like the fig tree that Jesus cursed.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Wow.
What people don't realize is they're always cursing and blessing.
Yes.
There isn't a moment when they're speaking their words that they're not creating. Because most of their words, and I mean, are they saying, are 99.9% of the words going to be something they believe?
Yeah.
That's why they're saying them. Now, we do have teachings from the New Age movement where you create these affirmations, and you may not be saying them with belief, so those are times when you're not necessarily creating. You do have to have the energy of emotion and belief in that word with it that gives it that power. But that's what 99% of people are doing all the time anyway. They're not thinking, they're
But-
just speaking with emotion.
Doesn't that make sense when some people get healed? Like you said, people are getting up, walking out of wheelchairs. It's because when people say they didn't have enough faith. Well, you've heard, I grew up in the Pentecostal movement, and people used to say, well, that person just didn't believe, they had doubt. Well, no, they didn't understand that they needed to release that power that God put inside you. So that's the difference.
You know, another way that people got healed, it's when he said your sins are forgiven. Then they got healed. In other words, he was telling them,
No judgment.
no judgment. Stop judging yourself, and you'll be healed.
Go and sin no more.
Go and sin no more. Yeah. It basically means go and judge no more.
But if you fall back into your old beliefs, whatever.
And that's why it's important. And even in this book about the disappearance of the universe, that's why they talk about the Course in Miracles. They talk about how there's a workbook, and you have to work and do it over and over and over. Well, we're back to the neuroscience again. You're reprogramming your computer. You're reprogramming your subconscious. See? And what did Paul say in Romans 12:1? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
That's what's really going on here. They say it's your mind that is either going with the ego or with the Christ. That's what they say in this disappearance of the universe. And 99% of the world is totally ego right now. Their mind is following the ego. And guess what? You cannot serve two masters. You can go back and forth.
Which is not a good thing either.
Well, it's better than just being one all the time, but because you got to practice. That's why you have to practice setting your mind on things above. Remember that scripture?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you got to learn to set your mind.
And in the letters, Jesus says that if you are believing and studying and believing, don't let doubt creep into those beliefs, because when you do, you fall back even further than you were before, and you have to start over. And same thing.
Mhm. Well, and then Jesus said this, be careful what you hear,
Yes.
for the measure that you give to it, it will be measured back to you. See, that's the other thing. What are people spending all their time hearing?
That's in there too.
Be careful what you hear, for the measure you give to it, it will be measured back to you. In other words, you hear it and believe in it, you're going to get it back that way. That's what's going on with this whole scenario with the virus. I ain't afraid of no virus. That's a Ghostbusters quote.
I was just thinking, when you said that, I thought, I'm not going to say, hey, afraid of no ghosts.
That's what
I was hearing that little tune.
That's what I was.
I thought, I didn't know you were doing that on purpose. My
Yeah, I
brain
was.
went right there.
Do you know what's his
Wow.
name? Arnold. What's his name? That was in it.
Belushi and Aykroyd.
Aykroyd. In the second one, where the women.
Not
Did you see the one with the 4 women doing it? Ghostbusters, the movie.
Oh,
wow.
No.
Oh, it's good.
It's fairly new, isn't it?
No, it's been around for a long while now. Probably 10 years. Well, maybe not that long. 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, he makes an appearance in that one.
Does he really? Does a cameo? Awesome.
And he's driving a cab, and one of the other female Ghostbusters stops the cab to get in because she's got to hurry and get to where the ghosts are or something. And he says, "Where are you headed?" And she says, and they start talking about the ghost, and then he says some type of vocabulary about its arterial type goat, and then he says, "I ain't afraid of no ghosts." I mean, he said the line.
Yeah, that's great. That is so cute.
But anyway.
Wow. I know you've had to go back and reiterate a lot, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry you've had to go back to.
Oh, don't be sorry.
I like hearing it again all the
Do
time.
you? Okay, because I feel bad that
It
I've
just
made you all go
reinforces-
back
Oh, yeah.
so far.
It just-
but-
That's
No,
why
you
I
didn't
listen
at all.
to those things.
In fact,
over
I was
and over.
excited today, getting excited because I'm gonna get to put all this together, like tie it all together again. And with all this, I'm getting visualizations on even how to do visuals of it, about the oneness and then how that started to be separated, in the ego realm, but it's still in the oneness. It's an illusion, and that's something I do in my meditation. Is I tell myself I've always been in oneness. That's it. That it's never changed. I'm still there. You don't make it happen. It already is. And I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I shared it with Karen. The I am thing is when people talked about the Bible, preaching or asking Jesus or asking for things in the name of Jesus, right? And they always end their ritual prayers with "in the name of Jesus," and they think they're asking in the name of Jesus. No. Jesus said, "Before Abraham was." See, his real name isn't Jesus. Remember, that's the ego.
That's right.
His name is I am. See, the name of God, to ask in the name of God, you're doing that every time you say, "I am sick." You're speaking the name of God and speaking it into existence, because you're using your awareness and your being to create that reality. I am. That's when you're praying in the name of God. People don't even know it. That's the only name. And that's what I use in my meditation. Like I say, I am the mind of Christ. I am omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotence. Once I get to that feeling that I know I'm there, and you do exceedingly abundantly beyond anything I can ask or imagine, according to the power that is in me. You lead me and guide me into all the truth. I do that every day. That's why I'm getting truth. I thought, no wonder I'm getting truth. That's what I'm saying. You lead and you reveal all the truth to me. You know, all those sayings that...
And give her this...
Lord's Prayer? Oh.
No, the meditations from Dr. Joe that she can look up.
Yeah.
Because that's what does it for me. Doing a guided meditation.
Which ones do you think she should start
Well,
with?
I don't know. I like both of those that we do, the generous present moment and the energy centers.
Is it the third one that was the best one we liked? Wasn't it? Blessings, Energy Centers 3.
Well,
Wasn't that the one we did for a long time and liked a lot?
the blessing of the energy centers is the one that we've done.
Yeah,
for
but
a
there are
while.
3 of those. There's 3 types.
Okay.
There's 2, 3, and 4. 4 of them, actually. There's 3 was the one we liked the best.
I don't know. I just have it on the front of my computer.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
If I looked up Dr. Joe, what's his last name?
Dispenza. Dispenza.
Sorry.
That's all
I
right.
didn't catch that.
And you can go to his website. He has tons of different meditations. But my thing is if she should go, you know, I don't know if she should go to one of the beginning ones that teach you how to focus your attention. Like, that's the whole point, is being able to focus your awareness and realize that's what you're doing. He calls it convergence and divergence. That's what I like about the present moment one. Generous present moment is a good one. That's the one I'm doing right now all the time. Is because the way he teaches you to get to that, and again, this is scripture. It hit me that what David said, "Be still and know that I am." That's meditation. That's what we're doing.
Oh, and it said it. David meditated on God's word
Day and night.
Day and night. Yeah.
And but then it made sense. Well, that's what we're talking about. Becoming no one, no thing, no body is being still. See, you're not being anything. You're just allowing the being. And that's where you want to get. See? But he does that helping you. What I do is I focus on the darkness. I don't know if you do that.
Yeah.
But the way he teaches it, you know, if you close your eyes, what do you see? Well, you focus on that being infinite black space, just like you would see in the space, you know. And that's really, see, that's the other thing. See, learning all these other things made this, like Joe teaches, when you learn the knowledge, it makes it real. But for example, that's what I love about the understanding that what even makes these things exist that you see are separate. They wouldn't exist if there wasn't what? Space between. Well, that's what creates it. See, the space.
So you eliminate the space.
No,
No.
the space is what you want to be aware of. No, I'm
Oh,
just
it's
saying.
oneness,
No, I was
yeah,
just
the oneness.
no, I was explaining how
Okay.
they would. The reason they exist
Right.
is the space.
Okay.
The space is the infinite possibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
you
the-
want to focus on the space.
Yeah, which means there's nothing there.
Okay, I got you. I was thinking it back. I'm dyslexic. I was
That's
thinking
okay.
of that
No,
backwards.
that's okay. Yeah.
Makes
That,
sense.
that's when you in other words, you've lost you're out of 3-dimensional reality because there's nothing there but space now. See? And that's eternal. That's omnipresent
Wow.
everywhere. I mean, can you go anywhere that there's not space? No. It's omnipresent. See, it's a
Wow.
metaphor for the realization of the God, the divine. And then when he talked about diverging, I expand that. He tells you to go as far out as you can, just seeing it going on forever. And that opens your heart up. And what I do is I focus on opening my heart while I'm doing it. Thinking, and I breathe through my heart while I'm doing it. I mean, everything's from the heart. And then, if you want to converge that and bring that power in, that's when you, for example, that's when I'll say, after I've got out there, then I'll say, I have, or I am the mind of Christ. See, now I'm converging it into a reality or a creation. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just hang out out there and just let it be, and I get just filled up. I just get, oh my gosh. I get energy going everywhere in me and through me. Just being in that space. That's because you are in the Holy of Holies. That's another thing. See, I'm in the Holy of Holies. I'm in the omnipresent, creator consciousness here. And it's where everything comes from. See, I don't know if that's what you do, but I just think
I
in those two.
absolutely do not say all the things that you're saying. I don't. Again, it's your Bible
No, it's my way.
background.
Yeah.
And
And I'm not saying you have to. You can just be there and be silent. And that's really that's how I start. I don't talk all those things at first. I try to get in complete stillness first.
well, there are things that I say to myself, and they're all on the note
Right.
that you're saying. But
And I say stuff like that. I've learned that I've always been one. It's not something I'm becoming. It's something that I have always been, and it's already true. And I even do I think that's what Jesus was meant by the Lord's Prayer. See, you're saying, "The kingdom's come, His will be done." See.
And what I started doing when I first started doing my meditation, and I still do it sometimes, but not all the time, is there's certain music and kinds of music that I feel like moves me emotionally. And so I would listen to 2 or 3 pieces and then go into meditation, because I felt like that just kind of
got in a
opened my
state.
heart
Yeah.
to begin. And then I think whatever comes to you while you're doing this is what you want to say to yourself. I mean, whatever means,
Well, she has a Bible background too.
Very strong.
whatever that connection means to you will determine.
Just affirm those things like I'm talking about. I have the mind of Christ. Not I'm going to get it. Everything is I am now. In fact, that hit me a thing. Oh, no wonder they said now is the time of salvation.
Well,
Present moment. Present moment.
and the other thing is gratitude.
Yep.
Because I do that a lot
I do
while
that
I'm
too.
in the meditation. Is sometimes I just say thank you, and sometimes
Well,
I'm
and that's
saying
what-
thank you, divine.
And I do that when I say thank you that I have the mind of
Mhm.
Christ. I'm being thankful
Right.
because that means it's already done. You don't you say thank you after. Remember, that's what Jesus said. When you pray, make all your requests known to God with thanksgiving. Yep.
Not that you're asking for it, you're giving
Thanks
thanks.
that you already have it. It's already true. And see, that's why I'm saying it's already true that we're one with oneness.
Well, in your seminar, we would go to bed speaking positive affirmations on ourselves. So it's kind of the same
Same
thing as
thing.
speaking the positive. Everything's in the positive. Positive,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Okay.
But again, get into that space of
How do you know when you're there?
still.
Will I
Oh,
just
yeah.
know?
Just feel it. You just
Really?
feel it.
'Cause
Yeah.
I've never done this.
I know.
I'll start and it's like, oh my God, the phone will ring. Or, oh, my dog's now barking. I gotta go back. You know what? It's
Well,
like
see,
it's always
but
something.
see, here's
Well,
what
if you put your
I put
earphones
on these, and I put earphones on,
Do
so
you?
I can't hear anything.
See, that's my problem. Is I don't have I don't have quiet ever.
And
I
see-
don't have stillness.
And then I put these on, and I play the guided meditation through
Right.
here, so nothing's gonna bother me. I turn my phone off. I put it on airport. I turn everything off.
Okay.
So
Just set the environment.
For me,
Yeah.
they
You
could
need
be cutting
earphones,
grass
big time.
outside my window and I don't hear it.
Wow. Do you
Dogs
wear
bark. Yes.
headsets? Do you?
Yes, I
this is
listen to.
really important. Now I do this too. I always put this.
Yeah.
on.
Me too.
That's very important, y'all.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, yeah.
No, I'm joking. You know I'm joking. It's like,
Also, with these
That's
on,
great.
you can even open your eyes. You're still seeing black.
I love that.
You know, even with your eyes open.
I can't thank you enough for sharing this with me. No, my brain, you don't know me, Karen, but he's known me a long time. My brain never stops. It's, I've been diagnosed with ADD. I've been because I fire all the time. It's like opening a bag of confetti in my head. That's what happens with thoughts and things that go on all the time. And my doctor said, well, I think you're bipolar too. Rebuked that. I'm not accepting that. I'm not. They want me to go on medication to slow my brain. Well, they did put me on venlafaxine, which is, you know what that is?
Mhm.
I neither. It was, do you know what that is, Karen? Venlafaxine, it's a generic name for something, but it slows your brain down. And I got off of it because I met somebody about a year ago. I was on it about 6 months, and it was amazing what it did. It literally, I started thinking sequentially, which I don't do. I've never done that. I don't complete things because I'm firing all the time. I'm like 10,000 things, and I start businesses and I create things, and it's like I'm constant. And this medication was amazing because I was able to sequentially think through things, and I thought, so this is normal. This is awesome. I met somebody that had been on it about 3 to 4 years, and you have to keep upping the dose. They had me on 40 milligram. This guy was on 120 milligram in 4 years, and he looked comatose. He was just zoned out, and it was as I got off of it. So now I'm all over the place again and scattered, and I'm hoping that's
This
why I
can do it.
wanted to learn how to slow my brain down, because it's frustrating to me. It's so frustrating because I
Here's the other thing.
can't stop.
That people that teach meditation, other than Joe, I've heard him say, and Joe, I know teaches this too, but your goal is the stillness of your mind. But when thoughts come in, don't get upset with yourself. Just bring your awareness back to that darkness, back to that, and let them go as they come. Just let the thoughts go. And they say kind of like your mind is like the sky, and your thoughts are those clouds. Just let them go. Just let them, release them and let them disappear, and just practice bringing your awareness back. And
Just recognize them, that they are there, and
let them go.
oh, okay, and then don't fight with them.
Do you all do that anymore, or do you
Oh, yeah.
just get
No,
past
I'm-
that? You still have it?
No, I still have to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I still have to
So
work.
I shouldn't get discouraged
Oh,
if I
no.
don't get there.
Okay.
I don't know that anybody gets to where they can stay that way for a long period of time without coming in and out.
Maybe
Okay, well, that
Sad
helps.
Guru.
Yeah.
Sad Guru.
Maybe some monk that did it for 40 years or something.
Well, that's encouraging, because I would feel, just what you said, I would feel like I'm not doing something right. I can't perfect this.
Yeah.
So that helps to know that you all still do this after.
Well, yeah, and everybody that we've listened to said, don't fight those thoughts when they come in. Just
Okay.
recognize them.
Yeah, don't
go.
condemn yourself. Don't get upset. In fact, because that's focusing on them. So you're
Would be, yeah, you're
you're
giving it
attacking
energy.
them. Yeah, just release them, let them go, and get back to that
I'm
blank.
excited. I
like-
feel excitement inside that maybe if this will help my head, it will be so amazing. to
And
not
it
have
might help you too, if you haven't done this before, is maybe don't try to do it. These meditations that we do are typically about an hour. Don't try to do them so long. Maybe start it out with something
I
short.
thought you all were doing like 2 and 3 hours a day.